Tonight, the UK government blocks the Scottish Gender Reform Bill, saying it's concerned it affects UK-wide equality laws.
Also making the headlines, Scottish teachers begin a wave of rolling strikes to run for the next 16 school days.
They're out here on a day like this, -2 degrees, not getting paid, standing on a corner here trying to get support for the cause.
The pothole problem costing drivers across the country. Garages are struggling to keep up with demand for repairs.
And as winter returns, I'll be bringing the full forecast tonight from Garb in the North Highlands. Is it here to stay? Find out later.
I'm Kellyanne Woodland in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6.
Good evening, and breaking news tonight. The UK government is blocking the Scottish Gender Reform Bill. The announcement came in a statement a short time ago.
At a news conference earlier today, the First Minister said it would be an outrage if the UK government moved to block reforms passed at Holyrood to help people change their gender more easily. Our Westminster correspondent Catherine Sampson joins us. Catherine, what's been said?
Well, look, this is a huge announcement today. It is huge in terms of the relationship between the UK and Scottish governments. Now, we have been told all day that Alistair Jack, the Scottish Secretary, has been the ultimate decision maker in all this and that he was considering legal advice over the weekend. Well, he's considered that advice in the last hour. He released a statement confirming that he is going ahead to try and block this gender reform legislation that was, of course, only passed by the Scottish Parliament by a majority of MSPs in Holyrood just before Christmas. Now, in this statement from the Scottish Secretary, Alistair Jack, he confirms the mechanism by which he plans to do this. It's called Section 35 of the Scotland Act. Now, that is something that hasn't been used in the full 25 years of devolution of the Scottish Parliament, but he plans to use it. He says, after thorough and careful consideration of all the relevant legislation, he thinks that this will have an adverse impact on the operation of what he calls Great Britain-wide equalities legislation. Now, that's because, of course, you know, this act doesn't apply in England and Wales, but he's saying it will have an impact on the rest of the UK. He's saying here, transgender people who are going through the process to change their legal sex deserve respect, support and understanding. And his decision today, he's stressing, is about the consequences for UK-wide equalities, protections and other reserved matters. And he says he has not taken this decision lightly. In fact, you may remember as soon as that bill was passed in Holyrood, he was very quick to say he was starting to consider this process. Now, this is likely to prompt a furious response from Nicola Sturgeon, from the Scottish Government. We actually heard from the First Minister earlier today at a press conference, and here's, she was obviously talking ahead of this decision, but here's what, you know, the tone of her argument was about why she feels the UK government doesn't have the right to try and block this.
There are no grounds to challenge this legislation. It is within the competence of the Scottish Parliament. It doesn't affect the operation of the Equality Act, and it was passed by an overwhelming majority of the Scottish Parliament after very lengthy and very intense scrutiny by MSPs of all parties represented in the Parliament. So if there is a decision to challenge, then in my view it will be quite simply a political decision.
Now, that was the First Minister speaking earlier. I expect we will hear more from her on this subject tonight and, of course, into tomorrow. Now, there will be some campaigners who may welcome this move by Alistair Jack to attempt to block this legislation, but there will be many others and some of the trans community who certainly will not. Here's someone we spoke to earlier.
5 parties committed to reforming the Gender Recognition Act, including the Conservative Party. So now, you know, we've campaigned for a long time. The bill finally passed in December, and that was a really positive moment for trans people. And I am really saddened that is being undermined by a Conservative government who are making it really clear that they don't care about Scottish democracy and they don't care about trans people.
So an almighty row is certainly coming, and as I say, we're going to hear more on this from the Scottish Secretary Alistair Jack in the House of Commons chamber tomorrow.
At Westminster with that breaking story. Thank you.
Now, 16 days of rolling regional teacher strikes have begun, and Scotland's Education Secretary has tonight urged the EIS union to consider calling the action off.
Shirley-Ann Somerville has hinted there's a chance of further talks being productive, but teachers taking action today in Glasgow and East Lothian continue to push for a 10% pay rise. Here's our senior reporter, Gordon Cree.
In freezing temperatures first thing this morning, teachers at North Berwick High School and Law Primary were on a joint picket line. They've had warm words, but not yet the cold, hard cash they're asking for. And everyone here insisted this action is a last resort.
What's happening when people are out on strike is that there's a disruption to the learning of the children. People are not earning money. They don't get paid for a strike day. So it just shows you how strongly people feel that they're out here on a day like this, -2 degrees, not getting paid, standing on a corner here trying to get support for the cause.
I've been teaching for more than 20 years and never have we been asked to do this before. We know that we have pupils who are missing out on their learning today, and we would much rather be with them because we know that they have got prelims and exams in the future, and we would like to be there to support them as best we can.
Among those pupils is 12-year-old Daniel. He'd rather be at school today, but the first year understands why the teachers are doing what they're doing.
You know, inflation's, it's a big thing now, and they're needing the money to, pay for what they need. And as teachers, that's like that's a job that we need doing because it's the building blocks of everything,
What do we want? 10%! When do we want it? Now!
In Haddington, a rally saw teachers from across East Lothian underline what's at the heart of this dispute.
A pretty big and passionate turnout here on the first day of these regional strikes. They will continue for the next 16 days, with tomorrow being the turn of Perth and Kinross and North Ayrshire.
Yes, the unions have a mandate to continue with their strike action. As constructive talks are continuing, I would hope that they would consider suspending that rather than upping the ante and putting more strike dates on the table, because we are at the point, I think, of having the types of discussions, real detailed discussions, that may get something over the line.
Further and longer strikes are planned across February, March and April. Whether they happen could well depend on the next round of talks leading in the right direction. Gordon Cree, STV News, Haddington.
Health boards across Scotland have been ordered to review patient discharge plans by the end of this month to see if anyone can be sent home sooner. The First Minister announced the move as she admitted the current pressures in the NHS are still having an adverse impact on too many people.
The situation in emergency departments is set to be stabilising, but hospital occupancy at near capacity. Our chief reporter Sharon Frew has the latest.
Ruth Tonk's chest infection was so severe she was taken straight into the emergency departments by paramedics last month. The 86-year-old was still lying on a trolley in the unit 2 days later.
She went into A&E on the Wednesday evening and they couldn't actually locate a bed until the Friday morning. You could see the staff running around, struggling. They actually looked psychologically tired, not just physically tired. It was just like you could see them struggling to just keep going.
Ruth died at St John's Hospital in Livingston on the 2nd of January. Her son Carl, who has worked in the NHS most of his life, says he has never before seen services under such pressure.
I thank them with all my heart what they did for my mum and looking after us as a family as well. But they shouldn't be working like this. They really shouldn't. And patients shouldn't have to be getting this kind of care because even the care providers don't want to be doing it this way.
The First Minister says the situation at A&E departments appears to be starting to stabilise, but with capacity issues continuing to place immense strain on hospitals, tackling delayed discharge remains a priority.
I can confirm that health boards have been asked to review before the end of January all discharge plans in acute and community hospitals to identify any patients who should be discharged more quickly and help resolve any issues that might be preventing their discharge from hospital.
With 3 health boards having paused non-urgent elective surgeries, the Golden Jubilee Hospital is to be used to help increase capacity. An additional £1.5 million will also go towards diagnostic testing. It's hoped this will allow 15,000 more scans to be carried out in the next 3 months. This comes after figures obtained by the Scottish Conservatives found some patients have experienced waits of up to 5 years for key tests. In NHS Grampian, one person waited 258 weeks for a CT scan, another 255 weeks for an MRI scan. While in Glasgow, one patient waited 187 weeks for an endoscopic procedure.
But we've also got huge numbers of people waiting to be seen in A&E. We've got records number of people who are hanging up before being answered by NHS 24, and people are struggling to see their GP. And all of this together, this all points to patients struggling and suffering.
NHS pay negotiations mean the prospect of immediate strike action has been removed for now.
We have committed to maintain those negotiations. If the Scottish Government does not come up with something that we could take back to our members by February, then we are mindful that we still have a mandate from our members to take industrial action.
Difficult weeks still lie ahead for a health service that remains under strain and scrutiny. Sharon Frew, STV News.
OK, well, our political editor Colin Mackay was at the First Minister's briefing. And Colin, what more did Nicola Sturgeon have to say?
Well, if anything, the overstretched NHS at the moment seems to be getting even more stretched. The occupation rates in hospitals, if anything, has gone up from about 95% at last week's briefing to about 96% today. So there's not much room for manoeuvre there. Now, last week, the First Minister said that delayed discharges were coming down about 1,700 a day, is what she said last week. That down from a record 2,000 a day in November. But they may seem to be sneaking slightly upwards at the moment. Flu numbers are definitely coming down, though. Hospital cases have halved from almost 2,400 at the end of December. That was the highest level since 2016. There are 3 health boards in Scotland with extraordinary activities of flu at the moment. That's Ayrshire, Forth Valley and Highland. The others have come down from extraordinary to just high. Now, we'll get accident emergency figures tomorrow, but I wouldn't expect any big changes there either.
And Colin, what's the position on strikes in the NHS?
Well, you remember we broke the story of the breakthrough in the negotiations on Friday. So as nurses and ambulance staff prepare to go on strike again this week and next month in England, that's on pause in Scotland. The deal could be done by the end of this month, as you heard at the end of Sharon's report there. The unions seem slightly more confident and hopeful at the moment. The talks start on Thursday.
All right, keep us updated. Thanks very much, Colin.
To other stories, and former teammates were among those who gathered for the funeral of the footballer Frank McGarvey this afternoon. The former Celtic and St Mirren striker died on New Year's Day at the age of 66 after a cancer diagnosis last year. McGarvey scored 113 goals in 5 years at Parkhead and is in the Hall of Fame at St Mirren.
Marks & Spencer's aims to open 20 new shops across the UK, including a food hall in Largs. The retailer says the new stores will create more than 3,400 jobs. It comes after M&S announced a number of shops, including one on Glasgow's Sucky Hall Street, which shut in response to changing shopping habits.
A father from Polmont says he's living in limbo, waiting for a wheelchair-accessible house for him and his son. Joe Moan, who is blind, has to carry his son Jack up and down the stairs several times a day to access his bedroom and bathroom. They've been waiting for a new home for more than 3 years.
It comes as a Freedom of Information request finds that at least 24,000 families are waiting for an accessible house in Scotland. Polly Bartlett reports.
When it comes to getting around the house, every day is a worry for Dad Joe. He is registered blind and cares for his disabled son Jack. Jack is 7. He has the muscle wasting condition Duchenne muscular dystrophy and relies on a wheelchair.
The bedrooms are up the stairs and the bathroom is down the stairs, so I'm having to carry my son down the stairs every night. It's a health and safety hazard. I've already fallen coming downstairs with him Luckily Jack was okay, but every night is a worry just walking down those stairs.
The family have been on the waiting list for a new home for 3 years now. Every week Joe phones Falkirk Council for an update, and every week he's told there's nothing for them.
All of this must be taking a huge toll on you and your family.
It's more the emotions, like just knowing that we're sort of stuck in limbo. There just doesn't seem to be any sort of light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm not the only person that's in this situation. There's thousands of people just in limbo, waiting.
A Freedom of Information request has found that there are more than 24,000 disabled people on housing waiting lists, up from almost 10,000 in 2017. That's an increase of almost 150% in 5 years.
Disabled people are 4 times more likely to be unemployed if they live in an inaccessible home. It creates intolerable strain on families and carers. It creates mental health problems. We know disabled children being washed at school or in the local leisure centre because they cannot access their own bathroom at home. I mean, these are really, really serious problems for disabled people, but because they take place behind closed doors, they are often invisible.
The Scottish Government say they have issued guidance for local authorities to deliver more wheelchair-accessible housing, and Falkirk Council say they will work with the family to find a suitable property. In the meantime, Joe and Jack are left waiting for a safe place to call home. Polly Bartlett, STV News, Polmont.
A mechanic in Glasgow says potholes are out of control after being inundated with calls for repairs. Abdul Nazar Nadim is struggling to keep up with demand at his garage in Darnley. Glasgow City Council says sub-zero temperatures in December, followed by heavy rain, have contributed to the current state of the roads. Susan Ripple reports.
It's an issue that's getting harder to avoid. And in recent months, it seems the pothole problem is getting worse. Colin has spent around £700 on repairs after he hit these on Cool Hill Road near Bargeddy last October. He put a claim into Glasgow City Council, but it's been rejected.
Really loud bang. I mean, I actually thought we had hit an object on the road. It was that loud and it was that hard through the steering. I didn't expect it to be a pothole, to be honest with you. You expect, if there's a complaint went in, for them to get on it and fix it at least ASAP, and that doesn't seem to be happening.
Leanne has also been unsuccessful in trying to claim for compensation. She's still too afraid to ride her bike on the road after hitting this pothole 2 years ago.
As I was flying through the air, I could see headlights and my specs had fell off, so I could see the headlights in the distance, and I just says to myself, I have to get off this road. I dragged myself off by the elbows, and then there was a bus just behind me there, but thankfully I wasn't anywhere near the bus.
Glasgow City Council is encouraging the public to report potholes, and it's using technology to find out where they are.
To report a pothole using the My Glasgow app, first of all, you need to set your location and say where you are. Then you take a picture of the pothole, and then you need to answer a few questions, like how dangerous it is and what position it is in the road. Once you've then submitted that, you'll then hear back from the council as to whether they'll repair it.
I repeated that process a number of times on streets around the city, some deeper than others. For those drivers whose cars have been damaged, it's a costly repair.
This is basically completely out of control at the moment. We find ourselves a lot busier than we normally are. Our sales is maybe 60-70% more when I was before previously. And the worst thing is, it's happening to the same customer, maybe who just put a new tyre on it.
Glasgow City Council wouldn't put anyone up for interview. In a statement, it says staff are working round the clock on repairs, and all claims are determined in the context of its road safety policy. Susan Ripple, STV News, Glasgow.
You may have noticed it's pretty cold out there. Sean has left the studio in search of some snow, and it looks like he's found it. But where exactly? Let's find out.
Well, I've decided to head out into our first proper cold snap of the new year. As you can probably tell, I'm not in central Scotland, I'm not in my back garden. I have headed up north to the wee village of Garve, which is northwest of Inverness. And believe it or not, when I arrived here yesterday evening, none of this was here. All of this snow has fallen last night and through today. We've got about 20 to 30 centimetres of lying snow already, and we've still got a lot more to come through tonight and also into tomorrow. Now that's here, and I'm going to stay here because I love the snow. But for central and southern Scotland, of course, a northerly, quite a good direction for us, because it just means there's a lot of dry, sunny and crisp weather, although there will be some wintry showers in the west during tomorrow, but largely dry, clear and cold. Just a short, sharp reminder that it is winter, because by the weekend, there's going to be a big rise in temperatures. Of course, I'll have the full forecast for you a bit later in the programme.
All right, time for sport.
And Raman's here, you're focusing on the Cup semi-finals.
That's right, John. Two very good games at the weekend, and it's Glasgow's Big Two who'll be back at Hampden.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Good evening. Michael Beale says he's relishing the prospect of an Old Firm League Cup final after Rangers and Celtic set up a Hampden showdown next month. The Ibrox side progress after defeating Aberdeen 2-1 in extra time in their semi-final. Ange Postecoglou's side saw off Kilmarnock, and the Parkhead boss says he's delighted his team will be back at the National Stadium. The goal that settled this pulsating cup semi-final, substitute Kemar Roof making just his fourth appearance of the season, sealed Rangers' place in the League Cup final.
I thought we were the stronger team throughout. I thought overall we played well. At half-time I said to him I thought we were the better team in the first half, and we just had to not lose our head and keep playing. We were the team with the ball, which is what we wanted.
What Michael Beale didn't want was his team switching off defensively, which they did just before the break. Bojan Miovski with the goal to put Aberdeen 1 up. On the hour mark, Rangers levelled.
It's Ryan Jack against his old team, deflected and in! It had to be!
With the game heading for extra time, Aberdeen were reduced to 10 men. Anthony Stewart shown a red card for this foul on Fashion Sakala. The start of extra time was delayed when VAR technology briefly failed. When play did restart, James Tavernier's effort came off the bar. 2 minutes later, Rangers did find the back of the net.
Scott Wright's done really well. Roof has done even better.
At the other end, Johnny Hayes' spectacular effort was well saved by Alan McGregor. In the final seconds, McGregor then denied Hayden Coulson. So, Rangers will be back at Hampden next month. The Ibrox boss hopes the pitch will be in a better condition then.
The pitch is in a really bad state for what is a showpiece game that players are dreaming and hoping to get to. We need to have better than that.
24 hours earlier, Celtic defeated Kilmarnock in the other semi-final. The cup holders took a first-half lead after Kyle Lafferty's attempted clearance went in through Daisen Maeda. Georgios Giakoumakis sealed the win with this close-range effort.
We've given our supporters another trip out here for a cup final, which, when you start a year, that's your goal, that's your ambition at this football club to be present when the trophies are handed out, to give yourself an opportunity. So, it's great.
News from the capital now, and Hearts boss Robbie Neilson has expressed his delight after Kai Rose pledged his long-term future to the club. The defender has signed a new 5-year contract which will keep him at Tynecastle until 2028. Neilson has hailed the impact Rose has made since moving to Gorgie in the summer. Elias Melkersen could leave Hibernian for a fee of £1 million this summer after joining Sparta Rotterdam on loan. The Norwegian striker has been unable to break into the Hibs side under Lee Johnson and moves to the Netherlands on an initial temporary deal with an option to make the transfer permanent for the 6-figure sum. Livingston's new signing Luigi De Lucas hopes he can help the club to a top 4 finish. Livy are 4 points behind third-place Hearts after their 4-2 win over St Johnstone at the weekend. The Dominican Republic international joins after impressing in trial matches last month. The defender could make his debut against Dundee United on Wednesday.
I hope the performance continue for the club and we can be in the top. I know it's hard, but I think we can make it because we have a great players. And when we play with them in Turkey, we win the cup. And with Whisper Rangers too, I can play with them, and I can show we have a good players.
And some tennis news before I go. Cameron Norrie eased into the second round of the Australian Open following his straight sets win, and Andy Murray faces Matteo Berrettino tomorrow.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sports, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Well, we know how much Sean loves the snow, so he's on his travels for tonight's weather forecast.
It's looking like a chilly one. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Hello there. Well, as I always say, in a northerly we do quite well. Now I say we, I mean you in central and southern Scotland, because, well, a lot of dry and bright weather in the northerly, but I've headed up north to a wee village called Garve in the North Highlands between Inverness and Ullapool, and we've had a lot of snow here. Of course, northerlies here do get much of the snow. We get a lot more protection further south, and that'll be the case over the next couple of days. A big rise in temperature coming towards the weekend. Glasgow and Edinburgh could be up to 10 degrees. That's 50 degrees in Fahrenheit. Seems to be all or nothing at the moment. Either very cold or temperatures way above average, and you know what that means? Milder air coming back, and so's the wind and rain. Yuck. Tonight though should be dry, clear for many of us. It will be bitterly cold. South Lanarkshire expect we could get temperatures down to about -7, so a very cold night, and could be some icy patches, especially where we've got those showers across western parts, few wintry showers across the Hebrides, perhaps the west coast. Now tomorrow we hang on to those wintry showers across western parts of Argyll, but through the day they'll move further east across the mainland Argyll, also across Ayrshire, and perhaps one or two of them reaching the likes of Glasgow and also Cumbernauld a wee bit later on the day. So don't be surprised if you see some wintry flurries tomorrow afternoon, but still dry and bright in the east and still bitterly cold for all of us. Now there will be some rain, sleet and also some hail snow affecting eastern parts of the country on Wednesday. It'll also be windy down the east coast and also the west coast as well. Quieter on Thursday, a lot of dry and bright weather, but again our temperatures still struggling before that much milder air comes in for Saturday and Sunday. Bye bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And finally, today is the third Monday of January, meaning it's Blue Monday, which is said to be the most depressing day of the year. After Christmas, when it's dark and money is tight, well, may come as no surprise.
However, are people really feeling the blues, or are they not really bothered by a day created by a travel company trying to sell holidays abroad?
Do you feel the blues at the moment?
No, the only Blue Monday I know is the one from New Order, and that's a banging tune.
I'm feeling stressed, I think, because I study at the University of Edinburgh and the semester has just started. So I've got a lot of things to work on, so yeah.
Not exactly. I'm with my family, so kids having school, I have good working office, so we're happy with what we have, so that might be a myth.
You're feeling this Blue Monday, you're going to remain optimistic?
Absolutely. I've been for the last few months anyway, so I'm not going to let it go.
No, not really.
No, you're not feeling it?
No, it's just another Monday.
What would you say to anyone who's feeling a wee bit down tonight?
Just look forward to the new day and hopefully it's a better start tomorrow.
So, Blue Monday, full of misery. Is that your excuse, John?
I'll have you know, I'm pure dead excited. I've got Scotland tonight coming on at 10:40. Join me for that.
Oh yes, exciting. Good night.
Bye-bye.